am sitting down with Amir Hudda, the CEO of Q. Amir, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Tell me about Q. What is this? What is this company? What do you guys make?
So Q is a unified commerce platform. We focus exclusively on QSR and fast casual restaurants, so we don't do casual dining and fine dining. And we focus primarily on enterprise brands, which we define as brands that have at least 20 locations. But the reality is that when we find brands that are smaller than that we think have the potential for growth, we'll partner with them, we'll co-invest to bring the platform to life. If we find that the brand has the right ingredients that we look for from a growth perspective.
Sure.
But our success typically comes from brands that are larger, multi-hundred, multi-thousand, primarily because we build the platform from the ground up, very focused on this segment of the restaurant industry and very focused on the needs of the enterprise brands.
And unified commerce platform, explain that for me.
Yeah, so the thing that I found, so I didn't come from restaurant tech, I came from retail tech. And so what was new to me was that the industry as a whole had not embraced technology at the pace of other verticals, certainly retail. And there are lots of reasons for that. We can get into that if you want to. But the reality was that there was a world where there were too many almost different solar systems where all these different tech companies and tech platforms were building sort of the best in class. The pendulum had swung from companies that provided everything, the old NCR, the old Micros, where you got everything you needed. And then as technology progressed, you had a lot of companies that came up and said, I'm going to build the best loyalty solution. I'm going to build the best kitchen solution, the best inventory management solution or labor. And that there was a lot of innovation that happened and brands started to embrace that. What ended up happening was you ended up with too many different tech stacks because these products were all built as silos. And there's no underlying connecting engine layer, whatever you call that, right? So when we talk about unified commerce, the first thing that we did, our CTO, after I joined about 6 years ago, one of my first hires was to bring in a CTO, and he came from search. So he was used to dealing with data at massive volumes, but data that had a foundational layer. And so we didn't know any different. We didn't know any better because we had not done restaurant tech. So we just looked at the problems we thought existed and built a platform to do that. So we built a foundational data layer so that all these different applications, even if the data might be created in different applications, they get ingested and imbibed in a way where it is all normalized from the get-go. So there's not a lot of heavy lifting to make meaningful insights out of that data. So that's the first component.
Okay.
Then we said we'll build a menu management platform that addresses all your ordering channels. So we did that for the in-store POS, the drive-through, the kiosk in the store. We built our own online ordering digital app. Every different, we created direct integrations with all the third-party DSPs so that the orders could come straight into the POS. So we built a menu management platform that you could manage all these order channels, whether you're using Q's products for those order channels or one of our partners. We're great partners with Olo. And so you can use Olo if you want, but the menu management is done from one place. Whether you want to change a price in DoorDash or in Uber Eats or in Olo or your own first-party site or in-store, it's all done from one place. So that unified menu management. Then we did unified brand management. We said, if you're doing the work, whether it's for brand A or brand B, if they're owned by the same parent company, why should they have to do this twice? If I want to change the price of cheese, I want to change the price of cheese across all my brands because that's what inflation is telling me, right? So we created a way to manage brands from one place.
Okay.
Then we added the ability to unify the guest experience across these channels. And then the kitchen side, how do you unify your kitchen? You're getting orders from all these channels. How do you know how much to make? And by what time of day or day of week? How do you know that in real time? How do you tell your DoorDash driver that the food's not going to be ready when you're going to come to pick up? So getting that data across all the order channels and impacting the kitchen operations. So we call that unified fulfillment management. So these are all layers of unified experiences that sit on that unified data platform.
Gotcha.
And then I mentioned the unified tech stack, right? We feel like for enterprises, there are too many tech stacks right now. So we're trying to reduce the number of
Gotcha.
tech stacks. So that's
Yeah.
how we define unified commerce.
Okay, gotcha. So you guys have had two really big announcements recently. Let's start with the first one, which was GoTo Foods.
Yeah.
GoTo Foods announced that Q would be used across all of their brands, all 7 of their brands. How significant is that, especially what it says about Q and the future you guys see for the company?
Well, it's obviously huge for us for multiple reasons. It was obviously our largest win at the time, and it was with a brand that has 7 brands within GoTo Foods, right? And by standardizing on Q across all their brands, it validated some of the things I just talked about, right? Unified brand management, that data layer that helps them do more with less, right? So and then having this message that we are enterprise ready, we are able to do things that other technology providers can't because we just ended up having to build it. We purpose built a solution with this kind of an customer in mind. So to get that validation was huge for us.
Right. But then shortly after that, you guys announced that Jack in the Box
Yeah.
has come on as a Q client. So you guys are kind of knocking down some wins here, which is really great. But tell me about the Jack in the Box business and how it's symbolic for Q and the success of the company.
Yeah, and again, so Jack in the Box and Del Taco, right, owned by the
Sure,
same
yeah.
parent company, and our agreement with them is going to cover both brands. And so certainly the cross-brand management was a factor. But for Jack in the Box, the pace of innovation needed to be sped up. That's what, when they brought in Doug Cook as their CTO in 2021, one of the first things he realized was the investment in technology had lagged behind other investments in the business. And so his goal was to first stabilize what they already had because there were challenges and franchisees were not completely happy at the time. And then think about the next step of modernizing. And so after he spent time initially stabilizing, in the background, he kicked off the process to say, okay, once we do get to a stable place, what's going to be the next? And that next was a 2-year journey. And it was extremely diligent on his part, his teams, the operations teams within Jack in the Box, and also the franchisee groups within Jack in the Box. Because when you have a brand that large, you have some franchisees that are larger than most enterprise brands, right? And so they need to know what's going to be coming into the restaurants. They need to participate in that process, to
Right.
participate in pilots. And so we went through this journey with Jack in the Box to make sure that we met the needs of all of the stakeholders, keeping in mind the vision that Doug had for the future.
Sure. What do you think that companies like GoTo Foods and Jack in the Box, what is it that Q specifically is solving for those companies that they have partnered with you?
I think the most important thing is we're providing them a stable platform. We hear from franchisees and even on the corporate side, right? The challenge of making sure that it's always on. And people talk about how can I leverage technology to come up with ways to impact my top line or my bottom line, right? Well, if you can't take orders for 30 minutes or 60 minutes or longer, that's the first way you're going to impact your top line, right? And so having a platform that's designed to be always on, we have 3 levels of redundancy. We were the first technology company to work with Amazon to take AWS cloud infrastructure, the public cloud infrastructure, and build what we call an in-store cloud. So we worked with them to create that same cloud technology, but bring it closer to the store to get speed and redundancy. And we already had 2 layers of redundancy in the store before that. So that's a huge factor for folks making decisions. And the second one, there are lots, but another one that I hear about a lot is that they can sleep at night. Not because they know that the stores are going to be operational, but there are certain technology platforms that are outdated enough where you literally have to wake up in the middle of the night to run till the data all is available so you can run your payroll for the next day, right?
Yeah.
That's not how it should be in today's day and age. So having technology that's real time, that always works. We have an app that we created called Notify. We didn't have to do much work for it because of our data platform. We give you on your phone real-time data of every store, and you can aggregate it across thousands of locations, or you can go down to a check within a single store. So that real-time access to labor data, your sales to labor. And then we went a step further, right? Everybody's talking about AI today, but that was not the case 3 years ago.
Right.
When we built Notify. We added a voice interface and a chat interface so that you can interact with data in new and different ways. But we also use machine learning to alert you when we see things that need attention. Because we're seeing the data in real time. Why should you have to wait for a day or a week to take some action when you can take action in the moment?
Last question for you, Amir. What's next for Q? What do you see in the coming years?
I think the most important thing for us is to stay focused. We got here because we were focused. You know, when I joined, our second largest customer was a casual dining customer. That was a painful conversation when it came up for renewal to say we were not supporting casual dining. So that relentless focus on doing a few things, but doing them really, really well. Obviously, innovation is part of our DNA, right? Like I mentioned, our in-store cloud. I mentioned our Notify app and putting, AI technology in that 3 years ago. So to me, the most important thing is how do we use new technologies that are coming out and bring that to the restaurant industry faster than it might otherwise have gotten. So the kitchen is a great place for us to innovate. Like production optimization, promised delivery time. How much food should I make? If I make too much, there's wastage. If I make too little, the line in the drive-thru goes, out the parking lot and people are just pulling in and pulling out, right? That's a very fine balance. If my DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub delivery driver comes in and picks up a bag and walks, and I walked into the restaurant and my food is not ready, that impacts guest experience, right? So those are the things that we think there's still a lot of opportunity to solve some fundamental problems that we have today.
Well, it's exciting to watch. Amir Hudda of Q, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
Yep. Take care.